begin an investigation, but the weather never lies.
Storm of Suspicion. All new episodes Sunday nights at 8.
Currently in our area, 80 degrees under mostly cloudy skies. Today, thunderstorms likely. High 90. Chance of rain 80%. Tonight, partly cloudy skies early will give way to cloudy skies later at night. Low 78. Winds south at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Thursday, thunderstorms developing in the afternoon. High 90. Chance of rain 80%. Here's our 7-day outlook.
All right, guys, again, our powerful Hurricane Michael, this is what it looks like from space, 255 miles above the Earth. Looks a little bit more tame down there, doesn't it? But boy, I'll tell you, it's nothing but that. Pressure has dropped to 937 millibars. Certainly a rough storm to be out over the waters with a cruise ship or even an aircraft. Imagine flying from Tampa to San Antonio. You'd have to do a little rerouting, maybe go north to the Gulf or south around the south side of it. Certainly added extra time to your trip. Again, thanks for joining us this morning. Our continuing coverage of Michael here on the Weather Channel as we are within hours of landfall, potentially this afternoon after lunch, before dinner. That could be it. Where is it going to go? Somewhere around me here in Panama City. Could it be down toward Mexico Beach? Could it be up toward Destin? That's still a possibility. Right now, the center point of the cone, and where the eye is right now is aimed at Panama City. So let's talk about this storm with a little bit more detail here for you this morning, because we got a lot to cover in the fact that the pressure continues to drop. The hurricane hunters are out there. We've got a tornado watch, which has now been issued because of the outer bands coming on shore. And Rob Macedo with the Skywarn Spotters in Taunton says, hey, we got a 66-knot gust now on the buoy south of Pensacola. So the deeper you get into those bands, the stronger the winds. And that is all coming this way. We're over 40 in Apalachicola. Tillman, which is their anemometer's a little higher up, they're already gusting over 50 miles per hour. You can see those bright bands and the lightning inside the eye. This is exactly what happened with Opal. Opal bombed out, and it had lightning in its eye like this. So this is pulling an Opal for us this morning. That's a famous October hurricane, by the way, that occurred back in 1995. So let's get into this. Satellite presentation, pretty ominous. It's coming this way. There's no turning around. There's no stopping it. Once it comes ashore, it's going to continue to accelerate in through here. And if you look at the pressure and where it stands now at 937 millibars, look at the company this is with. All right? If it were to be that and be lower than that when it landfalls, it will be on the top of this list. These are October landfalling pressures. Thank you, Greg Diamond, for doing the research on this. Wow. Wow. All right, pressure has dropped 30 millibars plus in the last 30 hours, and you can see the corresponding response to the wind field. This is the inverse relationship between pressure and wind. All right? Pressure goes up, wind goes down, pressure goes down, wind goes up. And you can see that right here. And notice again, when we throw you the wind on here, you can see this wind energy is going to come on in. What's going to happen is that core wind field is going to spread out a little bit. So the 145 miles an hour, or wherever it stands right now, is only about 5 to 10 miles wide. But when you get that thing on shore, that eye wall begins to collapse and that wind field spreads out. But our biggest concern, Stephanie, to start this off with, is going to be the storm surge. Tell us about where you are, because if the landfall point is in fact me, you are exactly in the right front quadrant to take the max storm surge. How high are you? Are you out of harm's way?
Okay, Jim, I'll show you around us. But again, what Jim's saying is if the eye wall and the eye go over him, he gets that center point. Places like Mexico Beach, places like me in Port St. Joe, which we are 30 to 40 miles from where he is located, we are going to get the highest surge, 9 to 13 feet. So right now, we can't show it to you. Our sunrise is at 7:40, but essentially this is a beachfront home that we are standing under. And these are those wood pilings, okay? So this is an older home, but you see it's elevated. So again, this goes up, say, about 10 feet, but these are the wood piling homes. This is certainly going to be underwater. They're going to see the wave action. We're not far from the beach. There's a pool, that separates basically the back of this house and the beach. They do have a dune, but it's not significant. Now, the house behind me also elevated. Everyone's here is elevated because they're going to flood even without a hurricane. A lot of these areas do flood. Now, where are we located? First, let me show you. This is Highway 98. You see that there is an incline up to Highway 98, and then just over here off of behind me, that's a house where we're staying. And it is up 24 feet. We measured it. Our photographer, Mark Whaley, measured it for us, 14 feet. You literally have to go up a driveway. And once it gets a little more light out, Jim, we're going to be able to show you that elevation. So right now, our elevation is 24 feet where that house is located. Where you're located, how elevated are you up off of that water?
We have the ability to get out of the water, okay, like you do, to get up to the house. Where I'm standing right now, if we max surge, let's say the center goes to my west, Steph will still get hammered with surge, but so will I. We could get at 13 feet. This is about 10 feet high from the ocean right now. The waves are running up all the way to the dunes, which extend out another 10 feet. Again, like Stephanie, when the sun comes out, I'll show you this. But if we get a 13-footer, you're talking about waves, sand, and whatever coming up on top of this decking here into the pool. But the good news is, as I mentioned, look at how high the first floor is. All right, it's about 20 feet off of this deck. So really 30 feet off the ground is where we find the decking. And that's why we certainly feel like we can get out of the way of the surge. Our cars are parked on the second deck as well of a parking garage. So a lot of these things, guys, that we do when we plan and bring teams to a location to show you the power of a hurricane. Michael, 937 millibars. Lowest pressure ever in the Atlantic in October.
January 21st is National Hugging Day, but you do more than just give hugs. You care for everyone, and AARP is here to help with tools to navigate the realities of caregiving. Think of it as one big hug. Take on today with AARP.
At Firehouse Subs, subs are hot, hearty, and extraordinary. Every sub helps provide life-saving equipment for first responders. Nice, Jaws of life, Lisa. So more people eating at Firehouse Subs means more life-saving equipment donated to first responders. If you're gonna have a sub, have one that makes a difference. How's that taste, Jim?
Try the new Firehouse Pub Steak. Savory steak with crispy onions and our rich beer cheese sauce.
Firehouse Subs. Enjoy more subs, save more lives.
Life happens everywhere, like it never even happened. Only happens here. The cleanup and restoration specialists at 1-800-SERVPRO and servpro.com.
Here we go.
Discover.
I like your card, but I'm absolutely not paying an annual fee.
Discover has no annual fees.
Really? Yeah.
We just don't believe in them.
Oh, nice. You would not believe how long I've been rehearsing that.
No annual fee on any card, only from Discover.
Stop right there. I'm about to pop a cap of fresh in that washer. With Unstoppable in-wash scent boosters by Downy. Oh, it's so fresh. And it's gonna last from wash to wear for up to 12 weeks. Right? Freshness for weeks. Downy Unstoppables for fresh too feisty to quit. And now, try Downy Unstoppables with the original scent of Tide.
Nothing outlasts Energizer Ultimate Lithium. Hey, you can't do that. Can he do that?
Yeah, he's good.
Energizer Ultimate Lithium. It's the #1 longest lasting battery.
What started as a small mail order catalog for sailing supplies grew a little over 55 years. But along the way, we vowed to never lose sight of our heritage and dedication to quality, value, and service.
Gorgeous morning coming from beautiful Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
We see lighthouses as the ultimate symbol of trust, so we promise to preserve and protect our beacons of light to remind us just how far we've come and still guide us to the places we want to go. Land's End. Guaranteed. Period.
Why bother mastering something? Because when you want to create an entirely new feeling, the difference between excellence and mastery is all the difference in the world. Introducing the all-new Lexus ES, a product of mastery. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
Our craftsmen begin each day perfectly seasoning our Hillshire Farm smoked sausage. So by simply adding the right ingredients, you can end each day crafting a perfectly delicious dinner.
The worst thing in my mind is the unbelievable storm surge that we're going to get.
It's only going to get worse, way worse, by the way, before it gets better.
This is uncharted territory.
This is historical. This morning, we have a monster Category 4 hurricane. The pressure continues to drop with this system. Our winds right now at 140 miles an hour. The last pressure reading we had was 937. Will it go lower? It has the potential to. It has the potential to bring winds up to 145 miles an hour when it comes ashore. Also bringing surge up to 12 feet. I'm meteorologist Stephanie Abrams live in Port St. Joe. Off to my west is meteorologist Jim Cantori, about 30 to 40 miles in Panama City Beach. And Kelly Cass is in studio for us this morning. We want to give you the very latest on what is happening here. Of course, residents have fled the area. They have boarded up. All the preparation should be done. This system, this rain, it is from this. The winds, we've been out here since 3, 4 in the morning. It has started to pick up the winds here for us. Let's talk about our headlines. 6 airports in North Florida have shut down and scrubbed more than 150 flights for today. Oil companies evacuating 78 platforms and rigs in the Gulf of Mexico. More than a third of gas stations in the Mobile, Pensacola area do not have any fuel. And President Donald Trump approving a pre-landfall emergency declaration that frees up federal dollars to help with personal aid. Now, Jim, let's talk about how historic this is. First of all, lowest pressure since Hazel, right, which was 938. That was back in 1954 for October. Right. We've only had 4 Category 4 hurricanes in the month of October make landfall. Hazel was the last in 1954, to tell you how rare this is. And on top of that, Jim, never, ever have we had a Category 4 in any month make landfall in the Panhandle. This is unreal.
Yeah, this is we're setting up for history here, Stephanie, and the pressure's dropped even lower. Hurricane Hunter's now reporting 933 millibars. So we're, this thing's trying to get to a 5. That's exactly what it's trying to do before we go on in time. Let's talk exactly about what Stephanie just mentioned. This is, again, unprecedented here in terms of the pressure this morning. We're going to get a new advisory from the Hurricane Center, and, once we do, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see the wind go up. We've been seeing that relationship. That is typically the relationship. Pressure goes down, wind goes up. Pressure goes up, wind goes down. The pressure has been going down. It's been going down all morning long. So this thing is trying to intensify right upon landfall. It has not made that right turn yet. We have to watch this. And that's why the cone includes many areas of the Emerald Coast. And it includes it with a major hurricane landfall. There's no question we are going to get a major hurricane landfall. The big question is, what's it going to be? Is it going to be a mid-4, a strong 4, or a 5 when this thing comes in? All those are possibilities right now. Again, satellite presentation is tremendous. You've got a very, very warm core with this hurricane. You've got very tall rain towers helping to deepen the storm to levels, like we said, that have not occurred before. In terms of what we got. So this thing still has some time. It's going to start to feel the friction of the coast here within the next few hours. The big question is, when is it going to start to make the turn? Is there anything that we see that's going to get it to make that turn? That should start to happen here, again, in the next few hours. If it does not, that puts a lot of areas off to my west in a bigger play. All right? So you got to watch that. Each one of these rain bands bring in stronger winds and more intense rainfall. All right. I want to take the time here to bring in Governor Rick Scott of Florida. He's taking the time to talk to us this morning. And Governor Scott, when we talked to you yesterday, we had the makings of a Category 2 hurricane. This morning we have a 4 that wants to become a 5. Again, storm surge tops your list of concerns.
Well, Jim, my biggest concerns, I've been traveling the last 2 days in communities all across the Panhandle, the affected areas, ask people, get out. Listen to your locals about this evacuation. I'm scared to death that some people didn't listen. This is this is horrible. I think, people understand the wind sometimes, but now this is way worse. They understand the rain sometimes, but this is bad. But the storm surge is what scares the living daylights out of me. 9 to 12, 13 feet of storm surge. So right now, it's too late to get out. And if you're in a coastal community, you've got to hunker down. You've got to do everything you can to keep your family safe. I'm going to pray for every family in our state.
And Governor Scott, now we have a hurricane that's got a high-end Category 4 in its eyesight. So now you're talking about this wind threat, not only on the coast, but even inland, where it's going to take a while for this to wind down, maybe well into Georgia. People certainly in mobile homes at a very, very high risk here.
Oh. Well, Jim, we have 19,000 individuals positioned to help get the power back on. I have over 1,000 people positioned on search and rescue. I've called up 2,500 National Guard members, so 2,500 National Guard members. So we're going to do everything we can. I'm just scared to death the people that made the choice not to evacuate. Now you have got to hunker down and do everything you can to get safe. Do not come out in the middle of this thing. The winds are usually the winds are already picking up, and it's going to get worse pretty fast here.
Yeah, now it's just, it's kind of like the inevitable is coming here. When you certainly think back to powerful hurricanes with that small core of 145-mile-an-hour winds, Charlie comes to mind. And Charlie was one of these that came in, a very strong, small hurricane, but then raced across the state. Are you worried about a similar scenario, certainly in your northern panhandle counties, including the capital?
Well, absolutely. First I want to make sure everybody understands. We're going to have tropical storm force winds and maybe hurricane winds inland. We're going to have flash flooding. My first concern is all the storm surge. If you just think about it, this storm surge is above your house.
Right.
All right. You are not going to survive 12 feet, 13 feet of storm surge. You're not going to survive it. If you're in a one-story house and the storm surge is there, I don't know how you're going to survive that. So, but right now, what you've got to do, you've got to hunker down. Do not get out. And we'll do everything we can once this thing passes. But this is going to be inland. It's going to hit our state capital. I've asked all of our utilities to be prepared with a lot of personnel to help get the power back on. We're going to do everything we can to get the fuel, continue to get the fuel there. But now it's too late to get out. You need to hunker down.
Governor Scott, I want to ask you one more question. As you get briefed from your emergency managers in each county, the mayors in each town, are you getting a sense that a lot of people took this serious and left, or are you concerned about people that actually stayed behind with this?
Oh, Jim, I'm worried about the people who stay behind. This thing came up fast. That's why what I did for the last 2.5 days, I traveled around. I went to community after community, say, you've got to listen. You've got to listen to these evacuation orders. They're sitting there 100-mile-an-hour winds. Oh, I'm not worried. 140? You should be worried. And the storm surge, people have just never seen storm surge. This has been at least a century since anything like this has happened in the Panhandle. So that's what my biggest concern is, that people didn't take this seriously. We have 54 shelters open, but it's too late to get there now. It's coming. It's coming right now.
Yeah, and this water continues to rise. Governor Rick Scott, we appreciate your time, sir, and your concern. It is genuine. It is heartfelt. And, like us here as broadcasters, we just want everybody to get out of harm's way. We know it's going to be bad, but be realistic and realize, especially with the damage this thing's going to cause, it's going to take a while to get back in. Thank you, sir. We appreciate your time. All right, guys, again, let's talk a little bit more about after landfall, after, what the governor was mentioning in terms of a big surge risk, a big inland wind threat. The storm just doesn't stop once it gets to the Georgia state line. It keeps going and makes its way up again into South Carolina, into North Carolina. Also, some of these areas that were hit, Stephanie, I'm worried about, especially around the Wilmington area, around Conway, that are still very, very wet soils. It won't take 60-mile-an-hour winds to knock over those trees. We may see a lot of tree damage with even 30 or 40-mile-per-hour gusts.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So it's not even necessarily, flooding, right? When you talk about moisture, even if it's just a little bit of rain, it's the trees that are going to go down. So let's talk about this system coming ashore, when it's going to happen, what we are going to see. So the storm's going to continue to move towards the coast. Does it make landfall where Jim is? Does it make landfall where we are? That's going to make a huge difference in the surge. Now, right now, we're forecast for 9 to 13 foot surge. That will certainly happen if it makes landfall over into Panama City, which is just off to our west. But we could also have the worst winds, which are right in that eye wall. Okay, so the eye wall is where you have the worst of the winds. The eye is the center. That's where you're going to have a calm. Now, right before this comes ashore, the National Weather Service in Tallahassee will most likely issue what they call an extreme wind warning. And this is something they rarely do. It only lasts for a couple of hours when you have the worst of the weather that's coming in. By the way, our winds have already started to pick up here. So we are starting to see those gusts, but when the extreme wind warning happens, that's when that eye wall's coming ashore. And that is the most destructive part of the storm, that eye wall. You're going to see the structures that are going to start to get eaten away. Obviously, the trees, the wind is also going to kick up those waves ahead of the storm. And there's that possibility that this could be a tropical storm all the way over into the Atlantic. Hurricane force winds extending all the way inland to Georgia. How often do you hear that happen? Wind gusts, we've already had them over into Pensacola. Apalachicola gusting up to 54 over into Pensacola. I just wrote it down. I wanted to get my numbers right here. Sustained 60 gusting to 76 at Panama City. Apalachicola gusting to 54. And then, of course, we're going to see those gusts even higher. Then you have to worry about the surge. 9 to 13 foot surge is what is expected. We will be underwater right here, but our house is up 24 feet, so we're not so concerned about the surge where we are staying right now. But I'm telling you, Appalachia Bay, Apalachicola is going to be inundated. This is not only going to set records, Jim, for pressure and wind and landfalls, but also when it comes to water rise as well. I have no doubt we're going to see records set with that, too.
You're absolutely right, Steph. And you know what? One of those areas, Apalachicola, is already 4 feet water rise. All right, so their record is 6.3 feet, which they got in Dennis back in 2005. So they're going to crush that. Let's talk about the winds. Apalachicola, here we go, gusting to 56 miles per hour. All right, so here it comes. The farther off the coast you get, we get into 60, 70, 80, and right around that center where all that lightning is going on, that's where the winds are gusting to, at the present time, 140 to 160 miles per hour within that eye wall. So just tremendous gusts at that. So here's the storm surge area that we're concerned about. And even notice west of the center, there's water rise. Okay, so with the water, it's going to come up and spread out. The wind direction is helping us in Sandestin and Fort Walton right now, but there's so much of a continental shelf here. This is what's doing it. The whole push of water comes up and fans out to the left and right. And that's why we're getting a storm surge area to the west of the center. So it's kind of a unique situation, certainly, for storm surge. So let's talk about these areas again that are already seeing the water rise. 9 to 13 feet, certainly Apalachicola. If the storm center were to stay west and not turn right and go to my west, we're going to get 9 to 13 feet here in Panama City as well. All right, Steph and I will both get hammered. Apalachicola is going to get it as well. This whole area is just set up to get absolutely creamed. The other thing, too, is if you look at what happens on the Emerald Coast heading down toward Apalachicola, it starts to bend. It starts to bend outward toward the Gulf. So if a storm's coming north and then turns right, it literally takes the water in at a perpendicular angle. So you max out the storm surge. There's going to be water rise anyway, just because of the large wind field here. Places like St. Mark's, St. George Island, oh my goodness. Mexico Beach, all right, Sop Choppy, Carabel, all these areas, again, Steph, that are going to get absolutely creamed with the storm surge in through here. And there's going to be a time, too, Kelly, where, given the kind of wind threat, this thing certainly looks like kind of a Charlie in its wind, where we may be knocked off the air because we lose cell towers. Right. So I want people to get ready for that. But obviously, we will stay with everybody as long as we can and as safe a distance as we can to bring you, obviously, whatever Michael is doing to this beautiful part of Florida. Over to you.
All right, Jim, thanks so much. The system that's eventually going to steer Michael, by the way, caused a lot of destructive weather yesterday in the central U.S. Survey teams from the National Weather Service will fan out today across parts of the middle of the country. As many as 20 suspected tornadoes left damage in 5 states Tuesday. New this morning, Governor Mary Fallin has put all 77 of Oklahoma's counties under a state of emergency.
We're showing you the storage unit here, and you can see some of the doors have been compromised.
Metal doors peeled up like pop-top cans. Hulking trees uprooted. Even splintered. Others knocked onto homes. Roofs ripped open. Others missing. Utility poles twisted. A laundry list of the wreckage left behind in central Oklahoma Tuesday. A half dozen or more tornadoes swarmed the state. One tore into a farm.
See that green baler there with that black pickup? I'm told that, believe it or not, there was an entire barn that was over that. It has been completely blown off.
Straight line winds or a tornado roughed up cars outside a JCPenney in Midwest City.
We appeared to have a downburst or something that twisted up a couple of cars and put them into the front of the building.
The scene outside the store stunned shoppers. Severe weather in Oklahoma, part of a tornado outbreak that stretched from Texas to Iowa. Shoppers and store workers shaken.
I was inside the store, yes, and I was in the back, and I just heard like rain, and it sounded like hail. And I came up here to the front, and they were stacked on top of each other.
And it was quite a Tuesday for Oklahoma. We had tornadoes, rain, flooding, a few snowflakes in the Panhandle, even 2 small earthquakes, all in one state in one day. All right, Steph, back to you in the Panhandle.
All right, so here in the Panhandle, we are concerned about tornadoes. There's a tornado watch. We're going to get to that. And also, we do have an interview with the director of the National Hurricane Center. He'll be up after this break.
We have serious problems. We're tumbling end over end up here.
What are the chances you're not coming back?
5 seconds to mandatory abort.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
First Man, rated PG-13.
Hi.
Hi.
You're picking up your SUV, right?
Yes.
Well, we not only fixed the dents, but we added a few things. Built-in 4G LTE Wi-Fi, Apple CarPlay compatibility, and a 7-inch diagonal touchscreen. We also painted it.
Whoa, this isn't our car.
It's a Chevy.
You're right, this is the Chevy Equinox. All those features come standard.
It's pretty much everything mine's not.
What more could you want?
Get 16% below MSRP on all 2019 Chevy Equinox LT models when you finance with GM Financial. That's over $4,800 on this Equinox. Find new roads at your local Chevy dealer.
Where's Gary?
Saved money on motorcycle insurance with Geico. Going up the country. Later, Gary.
I have a motorcycle.
Wonderful.
Geico Motorcycle. Great rates for great rides.